Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Grandstream. Today's host is Phil Bowers. He is their Senior Marketing Manager. He will be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them in the question box, and Phil will answer them at the end of today's presentation. Phil, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to your presentation. I am finished for now, so you can go ahead and take it on over.
All right, thank you, Julie, and good morning or good afternoon to everyone, I guess depending on where you are. As Julie mentioned, my name is Phil Bowers. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Grandstream. Probably have gotten to know my voice a little bit over the many webinars we've done together over the last couple of years. So really excited to be here today, and even more excited to be talking about the phones that you see here on the screen right now, our brand new GRP 2600 series of carrier grade IP phones. These phones are really the result of 2 to 3 years at least worth of kind of idea creation, research development on the background. And we are really excited to bring them to the market. It's frankly probably one of our biggest and most influential product launches in a couple of years and in the near future. So something that we are really excited about, something that we're looking to, really continue to grow Grandstream and our impact around the world. In terms of impact that we can have and reach that we have, specifically into larger deployment opportunities, service providers, enterprises, large resellers, large multi-site businesses. So the course of the webinar today, I'm going to introduce you to these great new IP phones, go through each of the models. There were 4 different models that were released officially last Thursday. And then at the end of the webinar, I will real quickly give you an introduction into the Grandstream device management system, which is the cloud provisioning and management platform that pairs with these GRP models and will in the future pair with other Grandstream products. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Oh, got to click there. All right. So before I kind of go into these models and what's so great about them, and much of what we're going to talk about is mentioned on the bullet points here on the slide, I always like to give a background and kind of tell a story of why we came out with something, kind of what our thinking was in creating a product and what we're really looking for to do. So with the GRP 2600 series, essentially as much of the market has focus their efforts on these large deployment opportunities, on working with enterprises, on working with large service providers. And we, internally from our side have really tried to ramp that up over the last couple of years. We realized there was an opportunity for us to create a new set of hardware, specifically IP phones, that would offer a set of features, customization, easy management, high-level security, essentially everything that an enterprise or that a service provider or that a large business really needs and able to mass deploy large volumes of these devices and to manage those platforms in the future and offer a variety of different endpoints based on the needs of their users. And so we took all of that, and that is what the GRP 2600 series are. If you remember anything from this webinar here today, these devices were designed for easy management and mass deployment. And as we go over the next couple of slides, I will give you an indication and talk about in more detail all of these features that you see here, which added up allow these devices really to be ideal for enterprises, for service providers, for other large deployments. They offer true zero-touch provisioning and management with GWN Cloud, which I will tell you about a little bit later on. It is a free cloud management platform that we offer, not just for provisioning, but also for ongoing management, monitoring, and troubleshooting. Touch more on GWN Cloud towards the end of the webinar, but all of these GRP series models are compatible with that cloud-based provisioning platform. They offer a variety of easy customization options, whether it be the different models within the series or the ability to actually customize the logo on these phones, which is big for service providers, big for enterprises. I'll touch on that. They offer a variety of next generation features, things that traditionally haven't all been offered in one specific IP phone, especially on the high end of these GRP series. Really some great features. All of them have digital BLF keys. All of them offer you a wide variety of virtual private keys. Some models have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, et cetera, et cetera. I'll go through all of that. You can tell just by looking at these phones that they look a little bit different from some of the Grandstream phones that you may have seen in the past. And that is because we have now standardized and created this new sleek design that is going to be standardized, not just through the GRP series, but through all of our models. So we really, took another look at the design of these phones. We spent a bunch of money on looking into testing out different designs and whatnot, and really throughout that process allowed us to come up with something that we're really excited about, a really sleek design, which is another big thing for enterprises and these large businesses, having these really attractive desk phones. Not only did we do that, but we've completely redesigned the user interface for these phones. They're completely brand new, redesigned user interface to make things just more efficient and easier to use. Enhanced enterprise grade security. One of those features being dual firmware images, so that if anything happens to these devices, if they get bricked, if they shut down or anything that would affect that, there's a second firmware image built on the phone that the phone can just load real quickly and stay operational. The whole GRP series has unified firmware, meaning that it's the same firmware for all of these devices, which range from basic up to high end. I'll touch on all these things a little bit more as we go. So this slide kind of touches more specifically on some of those next generation features, which I'll go through more as we go. Wi-Fi available on a variety of devices, Bluetooth available on a variety of devices, full support for the Opus codec, which is a wideband, a newer wideband codec that uses less bandwidth, full support across the board for that. State-of-the-art security, and what am I talking about with that? I'm talking about things like secure boot, encrypted data storage, unique default passwords, the dual image firmware that I talked about earlier, things that, really high-end security features that really aren't offered on really any or many IP phones on the market there today. Talked about the wide variety of digital BLF, virtual multi-purpose keys, and I'll break that down as we go through each model. And then I talked about the cloud provisioning, the cloud management through GDMS to really make these devices very easy to deploy in mass quantities, to have these devices provisioned and configured immediately upon being plugged in or even before they go out to the site. So just real quickly before I start to go through all the models, just wanted to give you one kind of quick snapshot here that shows you all the models in the GRP series. As this slide mentions, the GRP 2615, which is, I'm going to call the executive level version in this series, that will be released within the next couple of months, probably August, September timeframe, if I'm guessing. So currently what we have released are a GRP 2612, a GRP 2613, and a GRP 2614. There are a couple of different GRP 2612 versions, which I'll break down. You're going to get Wi-Fi support on the 2612W, as well as on the 2614 and the 2615 when it comes out. You're going to get dual gigabit ports on the 2613 and up. All of these models give you that swappable, customizable faceplate that I mentioned earlier, obviously all supported by GDMS, and some of these other features we will break down as we go through the models. So just to kind of wrap up before I break down these models specifically, some of the, the great advantages these devices offer. We talked about, and we will talk even more about, the replaceable LCD cover. We talked about how the user interface was completely redesigned. We offer a tool actually that can convert other brands' configuration tools. If you're used to working with another brand's config files, you can convert that through GDMS into something that would be compatible with the GRP series. United firmware and configuration templates across the whole line. We talked about the dual image firmware. We talked about the Opus codec support. Alias name-based XML config, I'll touch on a little bit later. Just to go into that real quickly, we have historically supported a p-value based config. Now we support this much more common, much easier to use alias name-based config. So those, again, just some of the advantages, and we'll go through much of this if we haven't already as we continue to move on. So one thing that I think is really important to point out about this GRP series before we break down these models is that this series is not, so traditionally our other phones we have series of basic models, series of mid-range models, series of high-end models. This GRP series really constitutes all of that. It allows you to choose and to deploy devices that are ideal for the customer base. We have essentially within this GRP series, devices that range from basic all the way up to executive level. So the 2612, it gives you 2 SIP accounts, is more of a basic level IP phone compatible with a 1600 series, Grandstream 1600 series phone. Our GRP 2613 in terms of the line capacity and the 3 SIP accounts, as well as some of the other features, really very similar to a GXP, or not similar, but more of a mid-range device, good for mid-range uses for those that handle moderate call volumes. Then we move up to the 2614, which is more of a high-end device, gives you a lot of different virtual private keys. It has a second LCD. It's got built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. And then even a step up above that when it is released is this 2615, because it will support up to 16 SIP accounts. It actually gives you a lot of different virtual private keys, 40 on the phone, and then 80 if you were to add the extension module that is compatible with it. Also with having a bigger screen, really great for those that are always on the phone in the case of the 2615. So I always like to point out that this GRP series really covers every need you're going to have from basic to mid-range to high-end up to executive level users. So now let's go through and break down these models. So we'll start with the GRP 2612. The GRP 2612 is the lower end, the more basic version. In this, however, as you can see, it does have, as all GRP models do, a full color screen operating system. The GRP 2612 it says 4 SIP accounts on this. I keep forgetting to change it. It is a 2-line phone or 2 SIP account phone with 4 line keys. So one of the great things that all of these GRP models give you is digital BLF speed dial keys. So in the case of the 2612, you see the 4 line keys around the screen of the phone. That each one of those keys can be turned into a digital BLF speed dial or virtual multi-purpose key. Each of the GRP models is going to give you up to 4 screens on the home page for those. So in this case, we're taking the 4 line keys, multiplying it by 4 pages, and that's support for up to 16 digital BLF, virtual private keys, whatever you want to call them. The GRP 2612 is available. There's actually 3 different GRP 2612 models. There's the GRP 2612 that does not have, basically it does not have power over Ethernet or Wi-Fi. If you want power over Ethernet, you want the GRP 2612P. That P in the model name stands for power over Ethernet. If you want a Wi-Fi version, you want the GRP 2612W. And I will mention now that the 2612W will be released around the same time as the 2615. It is not yet available. The 2612 and the 2612P that adds power over Ethernet are currently available, and the 2612W, which adds Wi-Fi, will be available within the next couple of months. All of the 2612s gives you a 2.4-inch color screen. You're going to get the 4 programmable soft keys right below it. All 2612 models have your standard 10/100 megabit per second ports. Every model above the 2612 is going to give you dual gigabit ports. Phone book for up to 500 contacts. Yeah, it's pretty much a quick little overview of the 2612. 2 SIP accounts, again, the 4 line keys, 16 virtual private keys, your standard 10/100 megabit per second ports. And so when you add kind of all of that up, and the price point and the streamlined look of it and the line capacity and the whatnot, it really is a great IP phone for those that need access to, we'll call them that need access to VoIP but don't need those really high-end features and aren't often, aren't handling high call volumes. It's a very cost-effective option, gives you that streamlined design for the occasional user. Allows you to kind of customize your deployments with this device by having a model that supports power over Ethernet, having another model that will be available soon that supports Wi-Fi. So again, really ideal for those that handle low to medium call capacity. So that's the GRP 2612. Now let's move up to the GRP 2613. Which is gives you 3 SIP accounts. It gives you 2 extra line keys from the 2612, so you can see the 6 line keys around the screen of the phone. The other thing that the 2613 will add to the 2612, other than the extra line keys and the 1 extra SIP account, is it has standard PoE and it has standard dual gigabit network ports. Similar, it's the same size screen as the 12, but again, it gives you the 6 line keys. You multiply that by 4 pages, so that's 24 virtual private keys available on the screen of this phone, standard dual gigabit network ports, built-in power over Ethernet, 500 contact phone book, and again, the 2.8-inch color LCD screen. So this device, because it gives you a little bit of extra line keys, it gives you 8 extra virtual private keys, it gives you the gigabit ports, and it gives you power over Ethernet. This is really ideally a mid-range IP phone, great for those that handle moderate call volumes or mid-tier deployments. Yeah, because it adds those, as I mentioned, the gigabit speeds, the additional virtual private keys, the extra lines, and the extra SIP accounts. So the 2613 is really an ideal mid-range IP phone. So now let's move up to the GRP 2614. And the first thing that you'll probably notice, or hopefully notice, looking at this device, is it's got 2 LCD screens. It actually has a second LCD screen down there in the bottom right-hand corner, which gives you 3 dedicated pages with 8 keys on each page for programmable BLF speed dial keys. This phone will also give you 4 SIP accounts, so it adds an extra SIP account to the 13. So I guess one of the easier ways to kind of keep these models, to differentiate these models, is the last number. Actually, I'm not going to. I was going to say the last number in the model name tells you how many SIP accounts it supports. And that is true for the 12, the 13, and the 14, but the 15 will actually support 16 SIP accounts. So that doesn't exactly follow throughout the whole series. But so yeah, the GRP 2614, it gives you the dual LCDs. It has, and this is where we begin to introduce built-in Bluetooth and built-in Wi-Fi. So the 2614 has built-in Wi-Fi. It also has built-in Bluetooth support. The Bluetooth allows you to pair it with Bluetooth headsets. It allows you to pair it with any type of smartphone or mobile device to transfer calls or contacts back and forth. As I mentioned, this phone gives you 4 SIP accounts. It's got the 4 line keys on the main screen. So if you were to multiply those 4 line keys by the 4 pages that you have, that's 16 virtual private keys from the main screen. The secondary LCD screen gives you 8 per page, a total of 3 pages. So that would be 24. So you have the 24 virtual private keys or speed dial BLF on the second screen to the 16 from the main screen, and you get a total of 40 on this phone. It also has the dual gigabit network ports, and it gives you quite a 4 times the size of a contact book from the 12 and the 13, so up to 2,000 users. And I believe I mentioned these standard built-in gigabit network ports as well. So when you take the differentiations between this and the other 2 models, mainly the extra virtual private keys, the extra SIP account that it supports, the larger contact book, the native built-in support for Bluetooth and for Wi-Fi, This device is really an ideal high-end IP phone. It's ideal for users that are often on the phone, that handle high call volumes because of those extra features that I mentioned, because of the wide varieties to right in front of your face here on the phone itself to have access to up to 40 different virtual private keys. So ideal for users that are often on the phone, that require more advanced features to stay productive. So that's the 26, 12, 13, and 14. Those are the models that are currently available that we released last week. As I mentioned earlier, within the next couple of months, we will release the GRP 2615. And the way that I like to describe this phone is this is the executive level phone within the GRP series. You see that it's a little bit bigger. It's got a 4.3-inch screen, so quite a bigger screen. It also gives you the 10 line keys there right around the phone. It is also going to be compatible with an extension module that we will release for this device. So this is a 16 SIP account phone that gives you 10 line keys. Same as the other GRP models, you get 4 pages of those line keys, so that's 40 different virtual private keys. Speed dial BLF that will be built right onto the main screen of this GRP 2615. It will be compatible, and I apologize that I don't have a picture of this right now, will be compatible with an extension module that we will release around the same time as this device. That extension module will support up to 40 contacts per module. You'll be able to daisy chain or connect up to 4 of those to this device. So if you were to theoretically add 4 extension modules to this device, 40 contacts per, that's 160 contacts plus the 40 you get just on the main screen here. That is 200 virtual private keys, 200 speed dial BLF keys on a 2615, which really makes it incredibly ideal for those that are like literally will spend much of their day on the phone or that really need to monitor the presence of a lot of people within an office. 2615 will have standard dual gigabit network ports. It just like the 14 will also have built-in Wi-Fi and built-in Bluetooth, as well as built-in power over Ethernet and that optional expansion module that I mentioned. Just to show you, so that kind of wraps up going through the individual models. Gonna wrap up with a couple of additional GRP features here before we spend the last couple of minutes talking about GDMS, our cloud platform. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the greatest things about these devices and one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of traction with service providers already on these is what you see here on the screen, this swappable LCD panel. So what this enables enterprise or any business or service provider to do is to really very easily customize these devices. A lot of service providers, a lot of enterprises want to have their own logo on the phones deployed throughout their office, or in the service provider's case, on the logo, they want their logo on the phones deployed to their customer. A lot of times, most of the time, the main way that a business interacts with their service platform is just by the IP phones on their desk. So giving service providers the ability to put their logo on these phones is really a great option. Same thing with enterprises. And previously, in order for a Grandstream to do that, it had to be done through an OEM or a white label order, and that had very high minimum order quantities and all these other, specific terms that stuck to them. No, that is not the case with the swappable LCDs. These can be very easily popped on and popped off using either a pen or a screwdriver. Pop it on, put the new one on, and it will screw right into that. These swappable LCDs can be customized and put on in the factory before we send out, or if somebody may have deployed these units, or if for whatever reason it's easier for us to ship them out to the site and somebody else can do it, we can do that as well. These are ordered through your Grandstream distributor. So obviously in this case, Microcom would be able to get these and facilitate this for you. We would simply just need a high resolution logo file. We'll create a proof, send it back to you and to Microcom, and then as long as that looks good, we can get the order placed. So really easy, very customizable way to to roll these devices out, to customize them. We have a number of ITSP clients that are already doing this. We have a couple of them that have really deployed in mass quantities the 2614, already putting their own logo, their own faceplate on it, which has really allowed the device to become even more a part of the service offering offered by service providers, or even really more an integral part of an office for an enterprise. So I mentioned this earlier, and this is more for our technical folks that are out there or those that are dealing with configuration. If you've used Grandstream in the past, you probably know that we have traditionally utilized a p-value or a number-based scheme for XML config. That was, admittedly somewhat of an outdated platform that not too many other manufacturers were using. So with the GRP series and with all new Grandstream phones going forward, we have added and now support this Alias-based XML configuration. It is much more widely used. It is pretty commonly understood out there on the market. So we now support that. If you would prefer to use the old p-value system, we support that as well. But this new Alias-based system, much easier, much more modern, much quicker to use, much more familiar to most people. All right, so before I wrap up, this is the last slide I got on the GRPs, and then we will wrap up with, I believe, 4 or 5 slides on the Grandstream device management system. So if you remember anything about these GRP models, again, they were made for easy management, customization, and mass deployments by high volume markets like enterprises, service providers, and multi-site businesses in a way that makes it easy for them to deploy them in mass quantities because of our cloud provisioning platform, those enterprise level security features I mentioned, the having all a wide range of different models within the same series that all share the same firmware that gives you next generation features such as all those digital BLFs, the built-in Wi-Fi on some models, the Bluetooth on some models. All of that put together just allows these devices to be very easily mass deployed and very easily managed at a mass deployment level by enterprises, service providers, and multi-site businesses. All right, so let me just take a quick drink of water here. All right. So that was our GRP series, the 2612, 2612P, 2613, 2614, and the coming soon 2615. So one of the things that I mentioned throughout the GRP section was that these devices were really designed, and one of the things that we're promoting about them is that they offer very easy management and mass deployment features. Whenever anyone's talking about that, we are really talking about GDMS here. So GDMS is something that we rolled out, I believe, at the end of March for beta, which you can go to gdms.cloud. That is the URL. It's just gdms.cloud right now to check it out, to sign up for a free account and to start using it to no limit. I'll go through more of that and the specifics of it as we go through these next couple of slides. But to give you a good initial introduction, GDMS is a zero-touch cloud provisioning and management system that we designed specifically to provide these very easy-to-use enterprise-level tools to manage, to deploy, to configure, and to monitor Grandstream products, whether it be before deployment, during deployment, or after deployment. It provides a centralized interface that allows you to provision devices, manage them, monitor them on an ongoing basis, and troubleshoot them. So it's not just a configuration platform or a management platform, but it allows you to do things such as troubleshoot devices, to receive alerts from the system based on certain parameters that you set, to manage, to deploy different sites, to control device management, account management, device configuration, firmware upgrades, device monitoring, intelligent alarms, to view real-time statistical analysis, And all of that can be done or viewed either individually or by batches of devices, of site, by group, by model, really a lot of different ways that you can really kind of granulate or get down to how you manage a GDMS platform. Excuse me. So to relate this to, we've talked a lot about service providers and enterprises. To relate this GDMS to those platforms, essentially, I mean, we've been working with, your large platform providers, large service providers, large enterprises around the world for a while. And specifically, I'll talk about the service providers first. All of them have their own platform that they use. Many of them are based off of platforms offered by larger companies such as BroadSoft or Ribbon or Portal One or Cisco. And historically, the model for those service providers or those platform providers is that enable to support a manufacturer's devices, they needed to actually natively integrate, basically create a whole separate provisioning engine or platform or templates just for that manufacturer. And it made it really complicated to get in initially with some of these some of these service providers or platform providers, because there was that long lead time initially just to get the devices certified, to get the provisioning templates added to their system, to update the system, and to kind of work with their service providers to let them know that this new support is there. And so because of that really complicated system, it took, in some cases, years for service providers to really be able to integrate new devices and deploy them. With something like GDMS and what we're seeing a lot of service providers and platform providers do now is they're expecting the manufacturer to have their own platform to do that. And all they're doing is redirecting their own platform to, in this case, GDMS for all device management, provisioning, monitoring, configuration. And the GDMS then, variety of ways, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, could also then be integrated with that platform to send information back to them. So sticking to that redirection, that is one of the greatest things about this, is it allows service providers or platform providers to essentially get out of the business of, really having to build specific technical resources to deploy new devices. And whereas we now, as a lot of other manufacturers do, frankly, have this cloud platform that allows them to basically push to us for provisioning, management, ongoing monitoring, task scheduling, et cetera, et cetera. And on the enterprise side, what this offers is a great centralized platform to roll out, to manage, to monitor, provision an entire enterprise grade or entire enterprise communication system, which, as you'll see later on, this platform is incredibly scalable. One of the things I haven't mentioned thus far is that it's fully free. There is no charge to use GDMS. There is no limit on the amount of devices you can register to your account, and there's no limit to the amount of SIP accounts that you can register to it. So to get back to that enterprise, this would be a great platform, free platform with unlimited scalability to allow them to deploy, manage, and monitor those platforms as well. Also for for channel partners like Microcom or for larger resellers, gives you the ability to do a lot of the do everything we talked about here to essentially control that for your end user clients, to have it all centralized within one interface that you can access remotely. One thing to mention, and especially when we're talking about the scalability, the having potentially multiple different offices, multiple different locations on it, GDMS does give you the ability to specify user and assign user and role privileges to, the example that I'll give is you have a large enterprise where they have a central IT team or IT manager who wants to control the entire platform and all sites, and they can do that. And then you could then provide access to the IT manager at each specific office to be able to either view the live feed or see what's going on with their own site, and also to potentially be able to edit their own site but not be able to change anything else. So that is a quick and maybe a little bit detailed introduction and description of what GDMS is. Again, it is a zero-touch cloud provisioning and management system. A couple other final details I want to mention about it. We talked about the no limitations on the number of devices and SIP accounts. And again, it is fully free. And as I mentioned earlier, you go to gdms.cloud right now and you can sign up for this and start using it right away. Currently, it is compatible with the GRP series, our GXV video phones, our DECT phones, and our WP820. And within the next couple of months, when this product is, or when this service is officially launched, it will be compatible with all Grandstream products. And again, there is no charge for this. It's a free platform, and we have no plans to change that at any point in time in the near future. Talked about scalability a little bit earlier. This is just to kind of show you an example of how this really can be catered to, really a business of any size. You have the ability right here to create a variety of different sites and then a variety of different, actually an unlimited amount of subsites below those sites, and to assign user privileges based on all of this. Very easy to move devices from one site to the next, to copy a configuration or a deployment from one site to the next or one subsite to the next. So again, allows you, as you see here, to really manage devices and platforms, not just provision, but also manage, troubleshoot, monitor on an ongoing basis, devices by site, by category, by model, et cetera, et cetera. All right, last slide here, and then we'll wrap up. As I talked earlier about service providers redirecting to a platform like GDS, or enterprises adopting GDMS to be their communication platform, provisioning and management software. We also offer an API for GDMS in case enterprise or a service provider would prefer to integrate it directly, all the functionality directly into their own platform. We do offer an API integration of GDMS that makes it very easy to do that, and it gives you all the features and functionality of GDMS. All right, so that wraps up the content and the webinar that I had planned here for today. We started talking about our GRP series, these new carrier grade IP phones, all of the state-of-the-art features, next generation features they offer, the way that they're really designed for easy management, easy customization, and mass deployments by enterprises, service providers, multi-site businesses. And then we wrapped up by talking about GDMS, the Grandstream device management software, which is our new cloud-based management system for all of our endpoints, fully compatible with the GRP series. As I mentioned, GDMS is currently in beta. You can go to gdms.cloud to sign up for it. It will be announced officially in the next couple of months. And when it is launched officially, it will support all Grandstream endpoints. The GRP series was officially launched last Thursday, so that is out there. All right, so with that wraps up what I had planned here for today. I will turn it back over to Julie for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Phil, for that wonderful presentation. We enjoyed it very much. I do have some questions here for you. Of course, regarding the GRP 2600, you mentioned some screen size, 4.3 inches. Is that the same? Is that the same for all of them? And are they touch screens?
Good question. No, so the 4.3 inch screen is on the 2615, the high-end version when it comes out. None of these are touch screens. They're all traditional color LCD screens. The screen size on the 2612, the basic version, is 2.4 inches. It's 320 by 240 pixels. The 2613 is a little bit larger at 2.8 inches. The 2614 is also 2.8 inches, but it also, as I mentioned, gives you that second dual LCD. So none of them are touchscreen. They're all traditional color LCDs, and that 4.3 inches on this 2615, which will be announced in a couple of months.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Next question here for you. Do the 2600 phones have access points built in?
No, they do not. They do not. That is a very interesting question, and I'd be lying if I said we hadn't poked around with that idea over here. More on a couple of niche products like hotel phones or something like that that we were looking on. So it's an interesting idea, but no, these do not have built-in Wi-Fi access points.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Next question here. You may have touched on this. The question says, let's see, is the Grandstream management controller free or does it have a cost? If there is a cost, is it per site or per device?
100% free. There's no limit on the amount of sites, the amount of devices, or the amount of SIP accounts. It's free. It will always be free. And I actually want to go back and clarify what I said on the last question about the Wi-Fi. Just want to make sure that all of this is fully out there. When I said it doesn't have a Wi-Fi access point, I mean that it doesn't have the ability to extend Wi-Fi out to other devices. All of the devices that do have the built-in Wi-Fi in this series, and actually every Grandstream phone that has built-in Wi-Fi support, it is built in. There is a Wi-Fi chip that is actually in the phone. We don't do dongles. We don't require you to use a dongle or to buy a separate dongle on any of our Wi-Fi compatible devices. The Wi-Fi compatibility, the Wi-Fi chip is built right into the phone.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question here. This is regarding the GRP 2614. Are there any attachments available for that model?
There are not. The extension module will only be compatible with the 2615.
Thank you so much for that. Next question here. Again, regarding the GRP 2600 cloud provisioning. Does this completely mean configuring it with a specific username and password remotely?
You certainly have yes. I guess the easy answer is yes. You have the ability to access and to customize all of those features that you just mentioned. Because it's a cloud platform, it can be completely done remotely. So, devices could be shipped to the site, and somebody from remotely could, set up and manage all of those. Obviously, I think the ideal, in terms of initial setup, ideally the way that a lot of these platforms work is that all of the provisioning, the SIP accounts, the device management is set up ahead of time before the devices go out, so that when they are plugged in, when they get to the end user site, they immediately shoot back to GDMS, and GDMS shoots it all its provisioning, and it is immediately in true zero-touch method provision.
Excellent. Thank you, Phil. Next question here. Regarding the GRP 2613, is this model open for a Wi-Fi upgrade?
Unfortunately, there are no plans for that at the moment. No.
Thank you. Next question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to clarify, the Wi-Fi compatible versions in the series are the 2612W, which will be available within the next couple of months. The 2614 has built-in Wi-Fi, and the 2615, when it comes out, will also have built-in Wi-Fi.
Excellent. Thank you. The next question here I have for you, of course, is regarding the 2600 models. Is the PoE included in the package, or can we use a different PoE brand? And if so, what is the voltage and amp needed?
So when I say that it has built-in PoE, I mean like the port itself on the phone, actually the gigabit ports actually will support PoE. It's not like a separate PoE injector or anything like that. If the question was maybe about what types of PoE switches or injectors might be compatible with it, we've tested a lot of those over the years from nearly every major brand, as I'm sure every manufacturer like us has, and we have yet to find a PoE injector or a PoE switch that is not compatible with our stuff. If you are looking at an injector, to be honest with you, don't have this information off the top of my head right now, but the datasheet of these products would tell you the exact voltage that is required for that.
Excellent, thank you. Just a couple more questions. What if a third-party firmware was installed on the GRP 2600s? Is it still going to be under warranty?
So I'll be honest, I'm not sure I know the answer to that question. I will go back and check with one of our sales managers to get the answer to that question. Yeah, I apologize for not knowing the answer to that question, but I don't off the top of my head.
No worries, no worries. Couple more questions. On the 2612, you talked about contacts and storing phone numbers, so to speak. What is the capacity or the additional contacts that can be stored?
So it's 500 on the 2612 and on the 2613, and then it will be up to 2,000 contacts on the 2614 and 2615.
Excellent, thank you. Last question here. You talked about customizing the LCD panels. If one wanted to do that, is there a minimum order involved? Like, does it have to be a large quantity? What can you tell us some more about that?
Sure. So there is a minimum order quantity. Off the top of my head, and I want to double check on this, but I believe it's in the neighborhood of 500 pieces for the minimum order quantity. I believe we can take orders below that. It just, it will increase the price a little bit. But to give you a comparison, the way that we previously did this kind of stuff was with OEM or white label orders. And I believe that our minimum order quantity for that was 5,000 pieces. So here we're talking about, if I remember correctly, a minimum order of 500, but we then will be able to take orders that lower than that, just costing a little bit more.
Phil, thank you so much for answering all those questions for us this morning. And also thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. And if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown here today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And please remember, this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so you can view it again. Phil, absolutely wonderful presentation today. Thank you so much for bringing us all this new product and information. We greatly appreciate it. I hope everyone has a fantastic day.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you.